Hello and welcome to NLF Live. Today is Freebie Friday and I am here in my office with Michael Levinsohn, our seasoned, knowledgeable, well-versed associate in the office. Michael has a ton of experience, and so I wanted you guys to meet him and allow him the opportunity to just give you a Freebie Friday fact. So, Michael.
All right, so let's talk about the cannabis industry. Excuse me. In California, they just legalized what everybody calls recreational sales. That's considered a pejorative term. It's not recreational, it's adult use. This was passed by the voters. There was an initiative that was on the ballot in 2016, and everybody agreed that you should be able to grow, buy, and use marijuana without a recommendation from a doctor. So why would you bother getting a recommendation from a doctor? You can just go into any store and buy it. Well, first off, you can't just go into any store and buy it because there's only a few cities currently that allow what's called recreational or adult use. Oakland is one of them, one of the few. Sacramento will be doing it very soon, but not yet. San Francisco, you'd think San Francisco, hippie, crazy, wild San Francisco, not yet. San Jose, nope. Los Angeles, not yet. San Diego, the big cities, basically, no. Except for Oakland, which is now developing into kind of weed central for the entire country, let alone the state of California. The biggest dispensary in the state is here in Oakland. It's called Harborside, and they've decided they're not going to do medical marijuana at all anymore. They're nothing but adult use or recreational marijuana use. The way that it's being done is the state, excuse me, is designating, that is to say there's a regulatory board. It's called the Bureau of Cannabis Control. When they first formulated it, was called the Bureau of Medical Marijuana, and the last letter was R. I think it was, the Bureau of Medical Marijuana Regulation, the bummer. And so they changed the name, okay? And it's the Bureau of Cannabis Control. And they are requiring products that are sold to be marked with an A for adult use or an M for medical use. The big difference is, besides where you'll be able to buy it, is that you'll be able to get medical marijuana cheaper. It'll be cheaper because if you take your doctor's recommendation and you go to the state or county health department and you get an identification card and you take that with you when you buy the cannabis at the dispensary, you will not have to pay the sales tax, which is 8.25%. The state now currently adds a 15% excise tax to every bit of cannabis that's sold in the state, whether it's adult or medical use. And then many local municipalities add additional taxes. So you can actually be paying 25 to 35% more for your cannabis now than you were before January 1st, depending on where you buy it. But at least if you have the doctor's, that is to say the state ID card, which, by the way, is going to cost you $100. If you have the state ID card, then you don't pay the sales tax. So if you buy enough of it over time, then that card will pay for itself because you will have saved the sales tax.
How long have you been working in the cannabis industry?
Well, I've been defending people on cannabis cases since about 2000, if not earlier, and then kind of did a real steady diet of them, so to speak, starting at about 2002, 2003. The state passed a regulatory system then called the Medical Marijuana Program Act, and that's when people started building all these dispensaries that were popping up all over the cities and in the states and getting arrested like crazy. And so they were hiring lawyers like me to defend them in these big sort of complicated cases involving money. The big issue being, was this being done for profit, which is crazy. I mean, why would you run a business unless you were going to be able to make a profit? Very complicated money laundering cases came out of this. All of that's the thing of the past now because they're not prosecuted. As a matter of fact, all the charges that used to get filed against people in marijuana cases, sales charges, transportation, cultivation, those are all misdemeanors now under state law. So the fact is that the state doesn't really care. They're not going to prosecute people unless they do really seriously egregious things. And nobody's doing that.
Now you're mentioning the state, though.
What about the federal?
What do the feds think?
Well, marijuana is a Schedule I narcotic. It is illegal in every state under federal law. It's illegal to possess even 1 gram of it. There are levels of punishment depending on how large an operation you may have. What happened during the Obama administration as states around the country began essentially legalizing the growing and selling of marijuana for either medical or recreational or both, the Obama administration decided through the Department of Justice that they didn't want to basically start World War III over marijuana, this big civil war between the federal government and the state government. So they decided, to implement a policy through the Department of Justice. The Attorney General's office issued memorandums to the local federal prosecutors. This began in about 2014. And these memorandums basically said, in states where there is some form of legal marijuana sales, essentially they were not to prosecute people who followed state law. And those have been pretty closely adhered to. There was another memorandum that they passed that said that it dealt with banking issues, that said basically banks don't need to worry about taking money in. Pretty much that's been ignored. Banks do worry about it, and they don't like taking the money in, and there doesn't seem to be much on the horizon to change that fear in their mind. What happened most recently was the new Attorney General and the new administration rescinded those instructions. They were called the Cole memos because the person who drafted them during the Obama administration under the direction of Attorney General Holder, his name was James Cole. He's no longer in the Department of Justice. But those memos were policy. They weren't law, but they were the way that the law was being enforced. The new Attorney General just rescinded them I think it was about 3 weeks ago. And everybody freaked out for about a day, 2 days. And then they realized, well, are they really going to change that much? And the answer is probably not, with one kind of important exception, which is, and this is my personal opinion, and I think a lot of people agree with me, which is that the Attorney General's office is probably not going to crank up a whole lot of criminal prosecutions based off of this change, but they are going to start seizing assets. They're going to take money and property away from people in the cannabis business, and I think they're going to start with people in the recreational business first. And I think they're also going to start with very obvious law violators, and they're going to take their money, and there are some of them have substantial amounts of money. So in fact, our clients in this industry are legitimate operators. They have grows that they're getting licensed. They have dispensaries that are getting licensed. I told them to get all their money out of the bank. Don't leave your money in the bank because those assets can be seized like that. And once they're taken, you're in a 5-year battle to get 20% of it back, even if you've done nothing illegal. Even if you never get charged with anything, they can take your money. And trust me, they will take your money. Jeff Sessions, the current Attorney General, is famous for that. He loves taking people's property.
So with that, I just want to close out by saying Michael wrote a blog in the past newsletter about the cannabis industry. So go ahead, log on to the nieveslawfirm.com to check out his most recent publication. As you can tell, Michael is very well versed in anything and everything cannabis. And he loves this stuff. So if you do have an issue, if there's something that you have a question about, please feel free to call in to the Nieves Law Firm at 510-588-8581, and we'd be happy to schedule a consultation. And Michael loves sitting down with people in person and hashing these things out and answering their questions. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.